Today we're welcoming James Jones, who has just signed a new contract at Altrincham Football Club. James missed a lot of last season through injury, and James, I'm sure you're absolutely delighted to get that done and be on board back again.
Yeah, of course. Really pleased to get it signed. It's been, like you just touched on there, it's been a long sort of 7-8 months, difficult season. And then my contract was obviously up in the summer, so it's not an ideal position to be in after having a long layoff. And I think I might have only played about 12 league games, so there was a little bit of uncertainty with my future. But the club wanted me to come back in and prove I was fit. I've done that, so just really pleased to get it done, and now looking forward.
And football's a strange old game, because last season it was fantastic for you when you were announced as club captain. You started the season, that went well, but from sort of early on in the season you started to suffer some injuries. Tell us the story of your season from a playing and injury perspective.
Yeah, it probably sums up the ups and the downs of football. When things are going well, you're never too far from a kick in the teeth, and vice versa. So yeah, it started really well, obviously being named captain, and then playing every week. I was doing well. We started the season okay. And then I picked up a little knock before we played, I think it was the Barnet game, and I was out. I missed about 3-4 games, but just before I was due to come back, we beat Ebbsfleet 6-1, which kept me out the side, which is fair enough. And then I think we must have won about 10 on the bounce, something like that. So I ended up being out the side for a couple of months, and then I was playing in a Cheshire Cup game, injured my shoulder, but didn't really realise I'd done much damage to it. It was just a bit sore, which is standard procedure for a centre-half. And then when I came back in the team about a month after that against Solihull, which we won 6-1, I injured it further, found out I needed an operation. Had to wait about 5-6 weeks for that, so I had the operation start January. And then the crazy thing about it all is the injury was only a 3-4 month injury, but because of the timings with everything, the fact that it took 5-6 weeks to actually realise that I'd done the injury, then another 5 weeks to get the operation, and then, like I say, it was 3-4 months. I had the operation in January, so I was back for the last week of the season, but then the season finished, so then I've had to wait the off season again. So a 3 to 4 month injury has ended up costing me about 7-8 months of football, which is really difficult to take. And it was a difficult period of time for me, especially, like you say, given what a positive start to the season it was for me personally. But there we go. That's the game. I've been in it long enough to know that's the way things go. There's lots of highs, there's lots of lows. You just got to try and stay level-headed and keep taking it one day at a time, and keep looking forward. And now I'm in the position where I'm at now, where we can have another good crack at it.
All footballers hate it when they are injured and can't play, but you seem to sort of take it quite positively and in your stride to a degree.
Yeah, well, I'm quite level-headed naturally. I'm not someone who gets too high or low. I don't think you can do, and be too emotionally be too emotional in this profession, because you can have a tough time if you do that. So yeah, like I say, I just took it all in my stride. That there was difficult days, but there we go. You got to keep just taking it one day at a time, and here we are now with things looking a bit more positive.
And we had Matt Fox, the club's head of performance, on Radio Alty a few weeks ago, and he was talking about the players that he was working with, and his specific reference to you, saying that you'd worked really hard during the close season. And I think he said you'll see a different James Jones physically when he's back.
Yeah, well, you've got to use these things as a positive. So I took the opportunity to really try and make a difference physically. The body shape I'm quite lean. I've always found it really difficult to put weight on whilst playing week in, week out. So having a long layoff like that was an opportunity to try and put some weight on. So I think at my playing weight last year I was maybe at about 84 kilograms, and I'm about 92 now. So I've been able to put on a little bit of size, which I'm hoping is going to help me, because it's probably the one thing I've always lacked a little bit, is just having that sort of raw, natural strength, and I feel like I've got that in my game now. So I'm just looking forward to trying to put that piece of the puzzle that I've already got, to hopefully make me more rounded.
And providing your form had been good, it's likely you would have played a lot of games last season, but obviously the injury changed all that. But again, it's interesting how football works out. Jake Cooper particularly, and Lewis Baines to a degree, that they really came forward and both had magnificent individual seasons.
Yeah, definitely, and I genuinely was delighted for them. We're all good mates. We're obviously all competing for positions, and Sam as well, who was here last season. We're all really good mates, and I was really pleased for them. Coops really stepped up and took his games to the next level with the run of games that he had. He was outstanding, and then I think Bainesy, particularly in the last few months of the season, again, really, he's been so consistent since he's been here, but I think the last 3 months of the season in the run-in where you need your big players to step up, he really found another gear. I think he was outstanding. So yeah, there's really good competition at centre-half now.
And it was a terrific season for the fans to watch, for the players to play in, and for the management, everybody at the club. In the end, we fell a little bit short, but there's so much to be proud of in what was achieved last season. Yeah,
definitely. I think there's only positives. Obviously disappointing to lose, but that was the team that ended up obviously getting promoted in the end, Bromley. And if you'd have offered us that at the start of the season, we would have absolutely bit your hand off. It was way above, I think, the expectations of everyone at the start of the season. We've just looked to improve year on year. I think if we'd have had a solid top half mid-table finish, we'd have looked at it and gone, another good year's progress. We look to move forward again next year. As it turned out, the lads took a massive leap forward. A comfortable playoff side for the majority of the year. What it's going to be now is, though, we've sort of set our stall out with that. We've set the standards. So we obviously want to be looking to emulate that again this year.
And how do you assess the league, what we've got in front of us? The fixtures have just come out earlier this week. How do you assess the 24-25 National League competition?
Yeah, I probably think it's as open as it's ever been, really. There is no one big hitter in the league this year, like when we obviously have a Wrexham or a Stockport or a Notts County or a Chesterfield. There's always one or two teams that are sort of head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of the size of club and in terms of the finances that they've got behind them. And that if they manage to get it right, then really the league's done pretty much. It's going to be difficult for anyone else to compete with them, but definitely this year I don't see that one team at this minute. I guess we'll reassess after 10 games. Maybe someone's way out there in front flying, like a Forest Green or one of the teams that have just come down. But there is no one massive football club with massive resources that can blow everyone else out of the water. So I think this is as open as it's been for years in this league, and we'll definitely be looking to try and take advantage of that and move ourselves to the front of the pack as we did last year.
Yeah, Forest Green are an interesting one. They've made some big signings, so they do look like they're going to be quite strong and going for it. But both Forest Green Rovers and Sutton United, they're not the big name clubs that like we've had when Wrexham got relegated, Stockport, and going back years and years, even York City, when they came into this league, they were a big name. And there's been Southend United, there's been a few of them. But Forest Green do look quite interesting, and they're an interesting club.
Yeah, 100%. Like I say, I think it's going to be a case of once we sort of get about 10 games in, really, you can see where everyone's at there. And I think historically, when teams come down, they really tend to struggle in this division. It's a real tough league. So it's just going to be seeing how they adapt. I think they've obviously got the finances behind them, and they've been a Football League club for, must be 5 to 10 years now. It feels like they've been in the Football League for a while, and in League One a couple of seasons ago. So obviously not a massive football club in terms of the size of the football club, but in terms of, where they've been and probably the financial resources they've got, they would certainly be one of the bigger clubs in that sense. So it's just going to be a case of how they hit the ground running and how they adapt to life back in non-league now.
And perhaps this season, when the fixtures came out, there wasn't any obvious one to look out for. Well, there has been in previous seasons when a big club has come down or a big club has arrived in the division. And perhaps we'll look at the fixture list in a different way because of the progress that we've made.
Yeah, well, you just look at every game now as such a winnable game. Every single name on that, every team on that list we look at and we go, that's 3 points if we play to our levels and we do what we're capable of. There's no, oh, we've got Wrexham away. That's probably going to be a loss. You want to go there. You want to give as good of an account of yourself as you can and take them as far as you can. We were so close to getting something out of the game when we played them at home, where we lost 2-1. So those games are going to be real difficult. And if the other team gets it right, the likelihood is you're probably going to lose. But now we look at the fixture list, and I think a lot of other teams in the league will look at us like that. If Altrincham get it right, then they're going to be really, really difficult to beat. And that's certainly how we look at it. We take care of ourselves and do what we do right. And then we know we've got more than enough in the team to beat anyone.
Last season was your first experience in the National League. And so you had an opportunity to compare it with League Two, which you'd been in for the previous 2 seasons. When you were with Altrincham previously, it was National League North. Having had the experience of last season and seen a lot of games, how would you assess the relative levels of National League versus League Two?
I think probably the biggest one is just the gap from the top of the National League to the bottom of the National League is much bigger than the gap from the top of the League Two to the bottom of League Two. Every single game in League Two is super, super competitive. You're playing against real big football clubs. In the National League, there is more, those teams, probably maybe the bottom 6, the quality starts to drop away. Not saying that they can't beat you on their day, because they absolutely can, but I think the quality is a bigger spread in the National League as opposed to League Two. But the as it's shown, because when teams get promoted into League Two, I think no team's ever been relegated in their first season, which shows the quality at the top of the National League is on par with League Two. So yeah, I think there's a greater spread across the National League in terms of the quality, but certainly the National League, as it's shown with the teams that have gone up, is right behind League Two now, certainly in the top half.
And your first action for Altrincham, you were involved in the win at Colne last Saturday, and that was a big game for you.
Yeah, it was just really nice to be back out there, to be honest. It's like I say, it's been 7-8 months, I think, since my last game against Solihull. So just to get back out there, get the kit on, have a run round, and just be back out on the pitch felt great, yeah.
And we've got a new young lad in the squad from the academy, Joel Bailey. Played at Lancaster last season in a pre-season friendly, and certainly one that's been identified by the management here as one for the future. Yeah,
I'm a massive fan of Joel. I think he's got all the attributes to do really well out the game. I look at him when I was his age, and I see probably a couple of similarities in terms of he's quite comfortable with the ball and stepping out, but he is young, could probably do with that little bit more size. But he's got all the skill set to have a good career, I think, and I'm a massive fan of Joel. It's going to be really good to see how he comes on throughout the season.
And it's 7 years last week since you made your first appearance for Altrincham. It's amazing how the time flies by. That pre-season friendly at Whitchurch Allport, which was Phil Parkinson and Neil Sorville's first game in charge of Alty. So much has happened since then.
Yeah, an awful lot's happened. Like I said earlier, a lot of ups and downs. But Altrincham's a club I feel a massive affinity to. I was here when the club was sort of in the gutter a little bit after the back-to-back relegations into the Northern Premier League, and now to be where we are now, which is, you'd probably say the most successful period for decades at Altrincham, and the most exciting part about it is I still feel like there's more levels that this club can go to. I think obviously the Football League is the next thing we want to get to. And that's not to say that's definitely going to be this year or next year. That's going to happen when it happens, but I would certainly think it's in the near future. And that's what's really exciting, is that the club's come so far, but there's still so much more we can do, that we're not close to the ceiling of what we're capable of here. So yeah, it's been up and down. But there's been loads of progress over the past 7 years. But I think the best might be yet to come.